This is the end of the beginning. Welcome to today's show. We're hearing more and more stuff floating around about the 2024 election and the rumors and possibilities of it being canceled. Now, is that something that could occur? Yeah, it very well could occur because remember, they want to cause as much chaos as possible because that is their motto, order out of chaos. And canceling the election would cause just that. But you can look at it from two different perspectives. What do they need to even cancel it for? Because the entire thing is completely rigged. And I'm going to show you some of the narratives out there, including when the World Economic Forum told us that we don't even need elections anymore because they could just take the pulse of the people and realize, who's going to win the election and who isn't. So we don't even need to do that. Does anyone remember when our friend Klaus Schwab was talking about that? Listen to this egotistical psychopath talk about that.
The technology now is, and digital technologies mainly have an analytical power. Now we go into a predictive power, and we have seen the first examples, and your company very much involved into it. But then the next step could be to go into a prescriptive mode, which means you do not even have to have elections anymore because you can already predict, and afterwards you can say, why do we need elections? Because we know what the result will be. Can you imagine such a world?
Oh, that makes perfect sense. So the pulse of the people, which would tell us that the majority of people are not on board with woke nonsense. They're not on board with any of this stuff, but they'll tell us that everybody's on board with it. So we just need to naturally believe it. Now, again, here's the problem. The problem is that we know that these elections are not real. And I'm not talking about how it's rigged against Republicans. I'm talking both ways. They're working together to create this chaos. That is what they're doing. This channel is not a pro-Trump channel. This is not a channel that believes the lesser of two evils. They're all evil. They're all in it together. And they're psychologically abusing our society, our world, and all of us on a day-to-day basis with all of this crap that they're doing. Now, we know the narrative is out there about Trump and the indictment and all this stuff, right? And we know that they're playing the narrative, rules for thee, not for me, right? Where it's Hunter Biden, the Bidens are corrupt. They're admitting to this stuff. They wouldn't have it out there if they didn't want it out there. They own all the newspapers. They own Fox. The only reason the stories about Hunter Biden and Joe Biden's relations to China are out there is to drive people up a wall about how this one side doesn't have rules and the other side does. And this is, again, is leading to a civil divorce, a national divorce, just like Ireland, just like we've seen throughout history, eventually to a civil war. But literally there's going to be blue and red states. That's my belief. And I really would doubt I'd be wrong about that. I just don't know the date or time that that'll occur. That's based on, them. There's a lot of agendas in play right now. But what that would do, again, we would have states that are blue that would have, pro-abortion, pro-this. They will force people into those states, just like they're going to force people like us, even though a lot of us aren't believers in being Republican, even though if it was real, we would probably obviously lean that way because one side's pretty crazy. But we wouldn't obviously stay in a state that mandated certain things into our bodies, so we wouldn't really have a choice, right? We wouldn't be able to work and things like that. So they're seesawing people with this. But the narrative has been out there, not just with Klaus Schwab. I talked on the website about Zelensky. Zelensky even recently in an interview said that they were probably not going to have elections until the war was postponed. So that narrative is out there, and it's in a lot of different countries about any type of conflict would cause elections to be postponed. However, this could also be a bait and hook type of tactic. We've seen people recently like Tim Pool, who's another one of these guys that I believe with the alt-right media. I don't pay attention to these guys, but sometimes they pop up in my feeds. And this one popped up with Roseanne where they were talking about the 2024 elections being canceled. Now there might not be elections, and Roseanne said that. And I don't really have much of a take on Roseanne, even though Roseanne's a celebrity. I actually noticed on my old channel, my big old channel that recently went there, Roseanne was actually a subscriber to the channel because you could see who's subscribed to your channel, which I thought was a little bit odd. I wasn't sure if I was getting monitored or if Roseanne actually watched the content or whatever. But either or, I'm not going to get into a debate about Roseanne and what sides and any of these celebrities are on. But this is the narrative, though, we're starting to see pushed by the alt-right media, which is Tim Pool, and this notion of them canceling elections, which would cause utter chaos in this country.
I don't even think we're going to have any election, Tim. I don't think we're going to have no election.
You want to bet money?
2024. I'll bet.
How much? $100?
How much you got?
Not as much as you.
I'll bet big. I don't think we're going to have no election.
$1,000.
All right, I'll bet.
Shake hands.
I hate shaking hands. Go like this.
It's worth it. Oh, that was a good one.
$1,000. So if we have an election 2024, you're going to give me $1,000.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Jake, does she have it? Yeah. Does she have? You don't have like a Britney Spears relationship with her, right? She has control of her money.
I got $1,000, but
Okay.
you're gonna have to pay me $1,000 when we do not have no election.
I would be delighted.
Well,
and I'll buy you a nice dinner on top of that.
Why do you think there won't be an election?
Because I think the corruption is just beginning to come out, and I think it's going to avalanche the corruption of the Biden administration and the money they took. First, it's going to be about Ukraine and Russia, then it's going to go into China, then it's going to go into the DOJ, and it's going to be like a big old avalanche.
That would prompt an election.
Huh?
That would prompt an election.
No, because I think that it's going to get so bad in the streets, too, that I think the military is going to step in.
I mean, the only one who was noticeably worse was Jimmy Carter. You know, we always said Donald Trump had such a low approval rating, right? But if you look, what you see is that Donald Trump's approval rating was actually slightly larger than Joe Biden's was at this point. Trump was at 43%. Biden is at just 41%. So he's doing worse than Trump, who he was always saying was doing so poorly.
So we know that the narrative's out there. But again, when you have stories like this about how the Supreme Court made it harder to overturn the 2024 election recently, this is a story from, what's the date on this story? It's about a month ago. A ruling rejecting a broad version of independent state legislature theory could help deter far-fetched legal arguments in the 2024 election. So in other words, a lot of this buildup about, because originally, remember, this goes both ways. It's the seesaw. When Trump won, we heard the Russian interference narrative, right? So all the liberals were like, the elections are rigged. They're not real. Then it went the other way to Biden, and then all the Republicans said it, right? This is by design. This is for them to psychologically want to restructure the entire process here, the entire voting system, what's real, what's not, what can we trust, what we cannot trust. Imploding everything is what it's about. And they have to do it to both sides, not just the one side. So this story here pretty much gives you an outline of what is to come with an election, because obviously they're going to, when this election occurs, if it does, right? Let's just say hypothetically it does happen, whereas, the narrative is telling us that it wouldn't happen, but it will cause just as much chaos either way, because they're teasing us, like I've said over the months, if you've been listening to the videos I've done on Biden, they're teasing us about how bad Joe Biden's approval rating is, how unpopular he is. So if Biden were to win, people would go absolutely insane. They did the same thing with Trump and Hillary. Trump wasn't even supposed to be in the race, really. They were like, it's going to be a landslide, right? And then all the liberal people pulled their hair. Oh, I can't believe this thing is all rigged. Russia's involved. Then it went the other way with Biden. Nobody thought Biden would win. He's the highest voted president in America. And that's all the narrative you hear where people are like, look at this guy. He's falling downstairs. And everybody, the most voted. I mean, this is the narrative that they want out there, just like the narrative of Hunter Biden, the corruption. They want these narratives out there. They want it out there because they want to create, in your mind, this illusion that one side has no rules and the other, has rules. And there is truth to that. We see that. I live that every day with being able to speak, okay? But I'm trying not to psychologically get sucked up into that because that's how they're going to herd people. They need to herd people. If I started another channel, I should just call it the herding of humanity because that's what this is. It's a psychological herding. They're manipulating you. They're playing your emotions and they're pulling you one way or the other. And they want you to go, well, it's the lesser of two evils. They want you to do this. What they don't want you to do is put things aside and reunite as people, left and right. Get away from political parties and unite against these small minority of people in Congress who are doing this. There's more of us than them in every single country. And we see this narrative in all the countries. We see it in all these countries. It's going on in Brazil. It's going on in France. We see uprisings and things like that done by design. You see agents put in place to do these, start these types of events, which again are causing order out of chaos, which is their motto. They're creating the chaos. They're creating the division amongst citizens. And then they're going to blame all of us for all the chaos that's going on in the world when they're the ones doing it by design, psychological manipulation. So we have this narrative out there, and even Trump has hinted at it before, about, we don't even need an election. Just put me in now, right? 6 years ago, I've already won, right? And that's one of the reasons they do all the polling, which I've warned about over the years. They do all of the polling to steer you in one way or the other, to make you think, oh, this is really popular. So, oh, people think that that's really what's going on. Or to set you up for something, right? They've been setting people up with these polling numbers now and having the reverse thing happen. Remember I covered the red storm? Remember that in the 2022 last year in the fall? All we heard about, red storm's coming. All these psychopaths are going to be taken out of power. And what happened? Nothing happened, right? And everyone's like, what happened to that red storm? Well, that was done by design so that people started pulling their hair out. Then people started questioning more if it was rigged and more if it was rigged. So it gets to the point where there's no trust in the system. So the system needs to be rebuilt. And that's what they want. They want the system rebuilt. They want the destruction of capitalism. They want the destruction of political parties. That's communism. They have to destroy it, though. And they can't destroy it without your help. They can't destroy this without dividing us and then convincing us that the system is broken. And they're the ones who are breaking the system. And that's why you see all of these people in Congress who are Republican do nothing. They just continually bait people. They're bringing people into Congress and they're asking them questions and they're making them look like fools. Nothing gets done. Nothing. Look at Watergate and look at Bill Clinton versus the stuff with Biden. It's night and day if these were real allegations, real charges of what would occur. And they're like, we can't do anything. They won't let us do it. Well, get rid of them. Throw them out. You've been voted in supposedly to have power over these over these decisions and to work for us, the people. And they're not working for us. They're just trying to drive people nuts by going, we're trying, nothing's happening, to the point where people get so frustrated, they go, destroy the system. We need to separate from these people into two separate countries with two separate set of rules and two different governments. Okay, and they have to destroy every single thing from within. And by canceling the elections, which is a narrative, I'm covering this because the narrative's floating around. It's been floating around with Zelensky. It's been floating around in other countries where they're saying it. It floated around with the outbreak where they said, well, could we postpone elections because of the outbreak? They're seed planting, getting you prepared even for the notion and the consideration that that could possibly occur. They want people to realize it could possibly occur. But what would cause more chaos? That or them coming out and telling us that Biden has a 10% approval rating and then Biden being voted in by the people where the people will go, we didn't vote for him, because that's what they just did in Brazil. That's what they just did last year. I covered it and got the video taken down. They're using the same narrative all over where they're putting the Democratic liberals, remember Biden talking about the liberal world order, they're putting them in the positions of power, all of them. And they're letting people out there know their approval ratings are bad and there's no way they're going to win. And then they're putting them in and causing riots and chaos because nobody's believing in the system. They don't want you to believe in it anymore because they don't want the system in place. As Klaus Schwab said earlier, right? We won't even need voting. There won't be voting. We'll just know what's best for you is what he's saying. We'll know what's best for you. That's what Klaus Schwab's saying there. We'll put the person best needed in power, which means they're controlled people. This is insanity what's occurring. But the narratives are out there on both sides. I want to ask everybody out there, if you haven't considered becoming a Patreon, please consider doing so. It would really help this channel out greatly. It's linked below. But at the very least, could you please subscribe to my other channels linked below? This channel needs all the help it can get. And of course, I need people to continue to subscribe. But there's really no point in me doing this. I'm feeling more and more defeated day in and day out. But I'm trying my best. So I just ask for a little bit of help. If you could subscribe, become a Patreon possibly, that would help. And of course, you could join the website if you haven't yet. I can't say the website name or leave it linked below yet until I got to figure something out with that. But you can ask around. I'm sure you'll be able to figure it out. I thank everyone again for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Let me know what you think about the potential between the two. The narrative floating around. To me, I feel like it's leaning more towards having the election, of course, and then something, unbelievable happening one way or the other. Because they can cause chaos any way they really want to. Keeping Biden in, putting Trump in, right? They don't need to cancel the election because it'll cause chaos one way or the other. So nobody will believe the results on either side, which is what they're preparing you for. Each side is not going to believe the other side. And that's the point. So that you question the system that's in place and you want to destroy the system that's in place because they want to destroy the system that's in place. And that's what their goal is. I thank you for being here again. Hope you're doing well. God bless all of you as always and your families.